but I am getting back into Final Fantasy 16 because that was like, while looking for supplemental work, I was also like, well, if I have this extra time, I may as well catch up on these games that have just like been on my list. And so that's why I knocked out Elden Ring, and then I did Resident Evil 2, and now I'm getting back to Final Fantasy 16. And I've talked about how like it doesn't thrill me. I don't love it. And there'll be moments where I want to give up on it. And then they'll be like, oh, hey, you got to the part where you can ride a chocobo. And I'm like, oh, no, this game's good again. I love chocobos. I'm gonna ride that little guy everywhere. He's my best friend. She is named Ambrosia. She's got one eye and cool battle armor. This is the best game I've ever played. Fuck everybody else.
Yeah, your childhood chocobo well, I guess this is slight spoilers, but who, survived fire and assassination attempts and became like apparently a local like Robin Hood style heroic legend in the community.
Well, hey, let's just dive in there. Hi, I'm Nick.
And I'm Kyle.
And you're listening to the podcast about a TV show that's about anything but the TV show. It's the Big Bang Theory. And as always, we're not talking about that show. We'll get to it. Right now, we're talking about how cool chocobos are in Final Fantasy 16. And yes, I do like the idea that they are the fantasy world's version of horses, basically. But they're nonetheless intelligent enough to form gangs and hunt down bandits and inflict a vengeance. And yeah, that is great. Also,
I have to admit, if you asked me to pick a list of creatures, to be fair, there are a lot of terrifying monsters in the Final Fantasy universe, but like an 8-foot tall, like 300, probably more than that, they probably close to like 500 pounds, an 8-foot tall, 500-pound bird capable of recognizing my face and hating me is not something I would want to start a beef with.
You say that, and the entire time you're describing a chocobo, I'm thinking if those were real, I'd be on the plains right now. I'd be a range roamer.
Instead of a horse girl, you'd be a chocobo boy.
Oh well, maybe I have the more romantic. I don't want a dressage chocobo. I want to be out there rustling and making long hauls. Unfortunately, that would probably put me on the. I was going to say I'd be against the side of the do-gooding justice chocobos if I'm just engaged in it for commerce, but maybe it's my positive relationship with the roving gangs of bandit chocobos that allow me to pass through dangerous territories unharmed.
I'm glad we figured out what NPC you would be in the Final Fantasy universe. Like, if there's one thing that was missing from this pod, because I can see that it's like, yeah, Nick you need to figure out where you better ask Nick the Chocobo guy, and then you would be like, yeah, I can help you as long as you finish off this side quest for me and kill 10 little cactus guys.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird in any sort of fantasy role-playing game how many people are willing to walk up to a perfect stranger and be like, will you murder this gang of critters for me? They're sentient for sure. And they know what it is to experience loss. And if you could just go, fuck them all up, I'll give you a pot.
Yeah. It's funny you should... So I was playing... I never played that much of Oblivion when it originally came out. It's not that I didn't have it. I definitely had it. But one, unlike now, where if you're going backwards from Skyrim to Oblivion, then even though Oblivion's interface is slightly more baroque and complicated, you can basically figure it out. Whereas if Oblivion was the first kind of RPG like that you ever picked up, it was baffling. There was just I just wandered around like a child, not knowing how to open doors half the time, and it was very hard. And then also, of course, that was the early days of the 360, and that game, which will also still crash a PS5 on occasion, although very rarely, would just the only time I ever got the Red Rings of Death consistently was trying to play fucking Elder Scrolls.
You and a million other lost souls. That happened to I was never an Xbox guy. I was always on the PlayStation side. But, my friends I had who are obviously not as, like, cool or just, like, good of people as I am were playing things like Oblivion. And, yeah, Red Rings abound. That was, like, I think just the amount of time you can sink into that game, like, was the thing that was, like, warping people's hard drives or whatever that problem was.
Yeah, and the number of the number of things you were asking your poor, 2008 game console to like simulate at once. It's like, nope, can't do it. Sorry, not optimized for this. Not yet. Come back.
Well, I think back. It was Oblivion. Was that where we got horse armor? Was that the beginning?
Yes.
Oh, man, what Infamous. And that also, I remember, because like I never played
Which
it.
is still, that's part of the DLC for if you get the remastered version, you can pay $10 extra, and guess what you get? Horse armor.
Cocky mother. Oh my goodness. That is, I cannot believe it. That's, like, I respect how shameless that is. To be like the OG needless, like, money-grubbing DLC, and now they're re-releasing, like, the special edition of it. That's... Oh, my God. We should talk about this dumb show.
Wait,
I just can't believe
reason...
the balls.
Yeah, the reason I brought that up is so I'm now playing the remaster and having quite a bit of fun, even though it is, as, it's an incredibly janky game on 1,000 different ways, but there really is nothing else. I watched a good video the other day, which is like, no one's saying that any particular Elder Scrolls game is perfect, but the thing is, no other games in existence try to do what the Elder Scrolls games do. So if you want a game that's like Elder Scrolls, you basically have to play Morrowind, Oblivion, or Skyrim. Those are your only choices. So yeah, I'm getting my mileage out of Oblivion, but there's a quest in it where it's so funny that this was a trope in like 2006 or whatever, where a lady's like, hey, I need you to go down to the basement and I got a bunch of rats down there. And you're like, oh, you want me to go down to the basement and kill the rats? And she's like, oh, God, no, kill the rats? No, those rats are my pets and my beloved best friends. Something is sneaking in and eating the rats, and I want you got to figure out who's eating my fucking pet rats and kill them.
That's a nice change.
I was like, well, okay. Nice little curveball you threw at me.
Man,
and
yeah,
you go down to the basement and there's a fucking mountain lion there. And you're like, oh, I mean, I guess that's, giant rats, mountain lion, that checks out. But Jesus.
Can you imagine, like, hearing about the local youth that, like, every afternoon goes to the sewers to, like, murder rats with a wooden sword? And everyone's like, he's going to be a hero someday. That's like, not from where I'm looking, buddy.
I know you've played this game, but you may not. That's literally how Final Fantasy XII starts.
Oh, yeah.
And introduces you to the main character. I guess that's not how it starts, because there's like a cool, like, epic action prologue. But, like, your first introduction to the character you're going to spend most of the game experiencing the plot through, it's like, it's time for day 10 of me versus the rats. Oh, I'm getting so good at killing them.
Well, okay, fuck this TV show. This is an important thing. Rats could be a pest. Van, our hero in that game, he's going down to the sewer to kill them. Like,
that's where they live, yeah.
Yeah, what is he? Is he trying to kill all rats in the city? Like, it's not like you're selling... Well, I guess you can sell the pelts, because it has that weird system where it's like, oh, you proved to me that you know how to kill rat pelts, and so you can buy potions now. But, yeah, it's like he's not helping anybody that I can recall. He's just like... I want to be good at fighting someday because he wants to be a thief. That's like the other, and not even like a noble thing. He's just like, man, he's such a weird, hollow character. Where he's like, I hope I grow up someday to be a pirate, not in the romantic sense. I want to travel the skies and murder and pillage, and to get good at that, I'm just gonna kill every rat I can find in the sewers and steal from people to live. I'm the hero.
I don't know. I mean, you're right. That is bonkers. But I think if any, and I doubt this was what they were going for, but I think it is a funny consequence of like acknowledging the full implications of what it's like to live in like a JRPG world, where it's like, no, your only path for if you want to rise above you are going to be an NPC who lives in the slum for the rest of your life. You're going to become the old man who directs heroes around the slum. Or you best start killing those rats and try to grind yourself up to being a sky pirate someday.
Well, and also, like, as the old man, you get to be, like, the rainmaker, right? Because every fucking street urchin that comes by, it's like, I've got a sensation about you, boy. I think you might be the Blessed One. And the Blessed One needs to bring me $100. And then you're doing that to every kid, and then like some kid grows up to like be a noble hero, and you're like, it was foretold. See, you can trust my wisdom. Never mind my army of bandits that I murder when they age out.
I had an idea to create a video game. I mean, I'm not a good video game. Like, I don't mean that I was actually like thinking about making a game. I was just thinking about
how dare you.
Yeah, I was just thinking about the kind of game that I wish existed because I would play it. And it would be fun for a game that instead of making you the plucky young protagonist, you're the grumpy old like mentor, master dude. And so you never go on quests directly. You just like annoying children come to you and you try to teach them things, and then you send them on missions that are probably going to get them murdered, and if they survive, then you teach them like one more point of your like one more technique in the line of your like exploding, sword Typhlosion technique, and that's the whole game. It's just you figuring out like, I don't know, is this kid ready to fight a dragon, or is that gonna like fuck up the whole like logistics, and then if not, you just move on to the next guy.
I like that a lot. Yeah, I've decided it's going to be called Old Man in a Cave Simulator, and yeah, very much like.
Yeah, you just have a stack of. You tell each one, it's like you're the chosen one. Here's the sword, and then they walk away, and you just pull another sword out of the pile and put it in front of you. Oh, it's dangerous to go out there. Here, you're gonna need this.
Well, and as each of them comes back to like finish the quests you send, you, the wise old man, develop an increasingly big and esoteric collection of ancient relics. And so when one kid dies and the next comes along, you can be like, oh, I bet this thing that the last kid didn't have would be helpful. Like, oh, hello, Gregory. An ancient hero once found this trinket, which may be of use. Yeah, it's a good system. Like, I've never thought about how those guys make a living, but now it's pretty obvious to me.
All right.
So what, we watch a TV show? That's what we do?
Probably. Okay. Yes, this is the Big Bang Theory. And today we watched, what was the name of the episode?
The Earworm Reverberation, which is the 10th episode of the 9th season. And yeah, last week was a Thanksgiving episode. Right now we are not to Christmas yet. This was, gosh, I think about it, like, I feel like last time was a part 2, or maybe the one before that. This is definitely like part of it. When they decide they're 2-part episodes, I guess I don't understand, because this feels like a pivotal point in an arc. Which, by the way, the unofficial official fan wiki summary reads, Sheldon can't get a certain tune out of his head. After he realizes the song is about him and Amy. That's weird. That doesn't happen until the very end of the episode. Hey, structure your summaries better. Anyway, after he realizes the song is about him and Amy, he heads to her apartment. They reconcile and share a passionate kiss in front of Amy's date, David Gibbs. Meanwhile, Howard and Raj find a in quotes, fan of their band, Footprints on the Moon. Hey, I know that's a labor of love. Whoever did that one, take it back to the drawing board. I could edit this. This is a public thing to be edited, and I could fix it, but I won't, because I respect you too much. I'll give you feedback, whoever you are, though. But yeah, I mean, honestly, as far as, like, what happens in the episode, I think what it fails to get into is how the tune in Sheldon's head him failing to remember it is really the focus of the episode, because like and
to the point where I've never wondered as like are the people writing this trying to annoy the audience? Because that definitely, like, they do such a good job of simulating how annoying this would be that I was starting to get annoyed.
Yeah, no, this is again when you know you've dealt with an excellent piece of art, is that like whatever feelings are being portrayed, you know, amongst the characters behind that screen where we're never going to go, that screen where no one's ever actually been, that you still feel those feelings. And they accomplish this by, I can't even remember how the tune goes, but it's like 10 notes.
Which is funny because we heard it about 400 times in this episode.
Well, you know what? Like, since we're just jumping around anyway, when the reveal comes near the end, because again, that's like 3/4 of the episode, Sheldon cannot stop humming this thing, and he's trying to figure it out. He, at one point, like, calls the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and is frustrated by their lack of customer service. And what I was kind of hoping, which is just says more about me and my rottenness, is that it was going to be, the song was going to be part of like some fundamental Sheldon building block that he just like hadn't unpacked, and like maybe he
like
heard
something that he heard on the day his dad left or something
like that. Yeah, like that it wasn't like really consciously present.
People who watch Young Sheldon are like, his dad didn't leave, he died, whatever.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know. I watched the last episode of that show and I didn't remember how it worked. I guess it was at a funeral. It was probably his funeral, I guess. But also, so what I was trying to say was that part of the reason I think I can't remember the tune is that when the actual song was revealed, it was so unremarkable that I just felt unsatisfied and it didn't like click. I was like, oh, it'll be great once we all know what this is and it'll be something that's obviously relatable and good. But like now I'm like skimming through and I'm like, was that even a real song?
No, it was a real song. And I didn't like, I think you're right. It's unremarkable in that like it feels completely interchangeable with any one of 1,000 other songs. But it was actually a Beach Boys song. And, I thought that was the one part of the episode that, and again, they structured it this way, but like that actually captured something, which is the relief of realizing, because for him, he jumps immediately from like, oh, the song that I've been hearing is the song by the Beach Boys, and that song is about someone who has had their life transformed by a woman. Oh, I must have been subconsciously thinking about Amy about that whole time. No, that whole second part strikes me as bullshit. But the part where you have a song in your head and you can't get it, and you finally just like relax enough that like your neurons fire in the right way, and it's like, oh, yeah. I've been thinking of the Jonathan Colton cover of Baby Got Back this whole time, and that's why I couldn't figure it out. So,
well, because no one actually knows how brains work, I can say anything I want, and it's just as likely to be right as anybody else. Yeah, when something like that happens, it's like you have a memory that is like split into parts, and then you'll like find like either that piece or thread that ties it together, and yeah, the relief is immense. And so, I don't know. It is annoying, but like maybe it needs to be annoying to have the relief. But I guess, to still be a critical little shit. I can see it now. I was surprised it was so hard for me to pick out. But yeah, the particular song is "Darlin'" by the Beach Boys, and I guess it's good that it didn't turn out to be like some sort of like weird child trauma memory. But also, when this is why is the song all of a sudden? When has Sheldon ever had an interest in this song or the Beach Boys? Why is it that he's suddenly like, oh, of all songs that I've ever heard in my life, I guess this one is the most about mine and my girlfriend's relationship, and It's now haunting me.
Feels like a real reach. In fact, it feels very much like what could the writers get the rights to that wouldn't cost them $1 billion?
I think so, and I think that's also why I even forgot it was the Beach Boys. But I think, for it being the Beach Boys, that it's not one of their hits.
Yeah, God Only Knows What I'd Be Without You is right there, and that's that one you don't have to explain the lyrics to.
Yeah, so he figures it out. That's what the whole, I guess that's your A plot, is it comes to him because he's complaining about the beach, and he starts saying beach-associated words. Beach Boys is what comes up. There you go. Meanwhile, the A plot, I don't even know what's a B plot. Like, I think it really just kind of comes together as one plot, is Amy, having been spurned by Sheldon in the last episode, is thinking like, well, setback, but I got to get back out there. I will have another date with Dave, or David, I guess, who, that's Stephen Merchant. I was happy to see him back. I was surprised, but happy. And I thought it was kind of funny. It wasn't like my favorite joke, but I liked it. I respected that it was a joke, is when Amy's like, there's not any reason for me to, like, keep waiting any longer. And, I've never been physical with somebody, but it may as well be him. And Bernadette's like, are you serious? Like, you've never had sex with anybody, and you want your first time to be with a 6'7" monster? Like, what are you thinking? And I was like, that's a fair concern. One that is not fulfilled, though, because she does follow up on the date. And Stephen Merchant, I think, unintentionally is more charming than the character is supposed to be.
Yeah, that's like the downside of casting someone who's legitimately, like, funny.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that the same people who wrote. I prefer to think that most of his funny lines in the show were ad-libbed by him personally, because they just seemed, frankly, a little bit too funny and charming to come from the writers of the show.
Yeah, and the reason I say too charming is that, when Amy calls him, he is obviously, like, totally thrilled because he is lonely and bored and desperate. But yeah, in trying to emphasize that by talking about how he has no other plans, and he starts joking about his lack of plans, where he's like, oh, well, Friday night, I've got to go to this opening of whatever with Jay-Z, and then on Sunday I'm doing something with the president or whatever. But he's like doing it in such like an affable and charming way. It's like, well, why are you so alone? Because you obviously, like, I don't know, not like people who are charming and lovely aren't alone, I say as I look my cat in the eyes. Yeah, it's just, he doesn't come off as nearly enough of a loser for me to feel particularly satisfied when they're going on their date, and it's going better than before. Still not great, because they still have the huge Sheldon common interest that they're trying to avoid. But Sheldon, inspired apparently to passion by remembering this song, seeks them out. I guess the date is at Amy's apartment, so he runs over to Amy's and just interrupts the date, and in the most assertive Sheldon has ever been, or I guess if you want to be less charitable, just unawares, he tells Amy his feelings. He goes in for a big, passionate make-out smooch, not one of these little chaste pecks they've had. This is a real horny kiss. Meanwhile, the man on the date, Stephen Merchant, is not affected at all, not negatively anyway. He's just so fucking psyched to see Sheldon again, and as they're making out, he even then is just like, well, okay, I guess my place isn't here, but this was a great evening. This is like legitimately, I'm having a wonderful time. And that's, I guess it's not like, maybe you could call it a stinger. It's like the closing of the episode is, so when it cuts to commercial, it's the make out with Stephen Merchant watching. And when they come back, it's like another full minute of Stephen Merchant just watching them make out as he cracks wise. And then, gosh, the B plot is a dud. It's, a couple episodes ago, Raj and Wolowitz started a band. They played one song at a comic book shop. Raj creates a Facebook page, I guess, to advertise the band. Wolowitz is betrayed because he wasn't a part of this decision until he learns they have officially one fan, at which point he is reignited by fame and glory, and they immediately start stalking the one fan. And in what I thought was a pretty bizarre turn, they they do stalk him, like, legitimately. They hunt him down to find that he is, like, hanging out at this one particular coffee shop, and they go to observe him in person. And while they're observing, they see that he starts picking his nose, and that is suddenly the most, like, disgusting, unsocial behavior that they could possibly imagine. And while not flattering, not a good thing to be doing, you know, these guys are the judges. These are the ones who are... This is a show about nerds, socially awkward, miserable people, and they find out that someone likes them. They see him pick his nose, and they're like, oh, gross. No, like, that... I think the show is, on this episode, I didn't think about this when I was watching it, but, like looking back, it's doing a bad job of making people as pathetic as they need to be for it to be funny. Everyone is, like, a little too neutral, I'd say. Not even necessarily charming. Stephen Merchant is, but, you know, Raj and Wolowitz aren't getting out of this in their charms. I just feel like they are so bizarrely judgmental, being disgusting little gremlins themselves, that someone picking his nose is the line. Or maybe it's me. Maybe I'm so defensive about nose picking that this is my pet issue. Kyle, how did you feel about this?
As someone who knows what it's like to be part of a two-man team with a very, very niche audience and a very, very small, arguably invisible collective of actual followers who like your content, the gratitude you feel when anybody likes it, yeah, pick your nose all you want.
Okay, good. That's like, I was starting to worry I was veering into, no, you're enabling people to just be weird and gross in public territory, and not like, this really seems like a pretty harmless offense as far as a stranger you've never met who thinks no one is watching him goes.
Yeah. Also, it's the perfect example of the kind of faux pas that they care, like, you know, because they could have had him, like, be a jerk to the barista or something, right? That would have been, like, so much more obviously alienating. But it's like, no, we can't judge people for that. But nose picking, absolutely monstrous.
Yeah, like, one of the pair of us, like, fucks robots because our wife is too intimidating or something. I don't know, I made that up, but it's probably true. But this nose picker, that's beneath. Well, I mean, that's, I think, like, all the plot points that seem worth bringing up. But any other thoughts about the episode, or feelings, or characters, or...
No.
No, that's fine.
The only, like, this episode, the structure of it starts with, like, a weird cold open, which is Sheldon talking into...
Oh, yeah, this is like a thread that doesn't exist. No, go ahead.
The episode starts with him talking into a camera as if he is slowly losing his mind. Like, it's very, like, Blair Witch zombie apocalypse style, like, Mad Scientist Diary, which is effective, except... then they go back and explain why he's doing it, and it's like kind of like because the earworm is making him think he's crazy, but also it's just apparently something he's wanted to do for a while, and so it's never explained and it's never utilized well within the context of the episode, and then it's over again.
Yeah,
so I don't know what was up with that.
No, it's bizarre. It seems like it's going to be the framing device for the entire episode, because you're right, it does start exactly like that with the you know, not first person, but like camera facing recording, and then you find out, you know, going back, that it's the earworm that he's worried is going to inevitably drive him insane. And it's like, well, that's not a thing. Like, it's annoying, but, like, I don't even think Sheldon is particularly concerned that this is where his mind starts slipping. And so, like, when even the premise, even like the suspension of disbelief that I have about real people in a real environment and their quirks, I'm just like, that's not what Sheldon would do. You guys, come on. Well, if you don't have anything else, I think we can move on to things we actually enjoy and would recommend to people that we like, and not just people who we give them things that we know they won't like because we don't want to say that we don't want to hang out next time. That would be rude. And so instead, you just give them an idea that you have bad taste, and so maybe they won't want to hang out with you next time, and then you're saved the impoliteness. Something that's not that. Would you like to go first, or should I?
Please, go ahead.
And also, before I forget, we did Patreon stuff, and where we talk a lot more about the things we actually like. So if you want to hear more about how much I love chocobos, I guess, that's the kind of stuff you could find on there. Last time, we got into Kyle's love of philosophy, which we kept general. but also something that I bet you're never going to get out of any other Big Bang Theory podcast. I can tell you that much. And if you want to go check that out, it is patreon.com/TBBTT, which is The Big Bang Theory. So patreon.com/TBBTT. With that, on to the good thing. I'm going to keep mine short because, not for spoilery reasons or anything, just because its premise is pretty straightforward and easy to explain, which is I'm recommending a YouTube channel I've started watching consistently, which is called Good Work. And, it's another reason to kind of keep it short is it is one of, a billion, like, you could call them like satirical news channels, like Little Baby's Daily Show or whatever, but like more, on the street, low budget or whatever. But, I say that like kind of negatively just to describe how much of that content is out there. But also as a backdrop to say that amongst all of that, this really stands out, and I love it. And the way it's presented is you have Dan Toomey, the host, who is kind of like a mock on-the-street journalist, investigative reporter. But what he's looking into, like, he talks to, like, I don't know, like real experts, mostly about, I guess, like, finance issues. Like the most recent episode was specifically about the current trend of private lending, which is where instead of giant banks lending money to businesses in a traditional sense, you have giant private companies doing that and essentially acting as banks, because it is, on the one hand, a less risky investment for them if they want to be putting their money somewhere, and on the other, completely unregulated. And so, it's this thing that is, I guess, the current hot, almost speculative market that may at the same time be the next bubble that's going to burst. And the reason I'm able to say any of that is because this Dan Toomey, like, it's jokey, but it's not so jokey in a way that it obscures the actual subject matter. Like, he's funny, he's making wisecracks, and he's also like he's like a self-effacing like parody of a host. But it's like good like content. Like, it's hard to say news because it's like not light and breaking, but as far as like making me more familiar with actual like current event topics that have to do with, like, again, mostly like business and finance stuff, which, I mean, I say that and it sounds boring, but it's like, oh, well, no, it's about the nerds who control the world. And I love it. And hey, it's not just me. I guess they've started getting awards and recognition. I don't even remember how I first found out. I think it was just like something recommended on YouTube, but it caught my eye very quickly, and I am now, I would say, officially a fan. And so I recommend the YouTube channel Good Work if you want to get some news in a way that is not distressing. Kyle, your turn.
I'm not even sure this counts as a recommendation so much as a cute story. Is that okay?
Oh, we'll see after the fact, and then whether you get in trouble and have to do it over.
Well, I will say, so my recommendation, I guess, is just Dungeons and Dragons again. But now I have a Dungeons and Dragons related story, which is in my personal life, I am in the process of wrapping up a master's degree. Not anything super impressive, but it's been stressful and time consuming. And I worked hard, and I'm glad to be almost done with it. And I got the craziest thing, which is as I was gearing up for a couple of finals and things, I got a package in the mail. And that package was like a 1984 like first edition module of a third-party Dungeons and Dragons adventure.
Rad.
Called oh man, just a second. I don't have it in front of me, but I posted pictures of it everywhere, so I can look up the name of it really quickly. Called Tower of Magics. Yes, Tower of Magics. And Tower of Magics is an adventure. It's a sequel to another adventure that I had looked up before called Beastmaker Mountain. and it is, on the cover there's a woman with silver white hair and a sword that shoots lightning, on a white horse, chasing a bunch of people. And so here's the crazy thing is I have a weird connection to this particular adventure.
Oh, are you a wizard, babe?
No.
Oh.
But, so the guy who created this adventure is a guy named Bill Fawcett. I can say that because it's public domain. He has his own Wikipedia entry. And he was like one of the original guys to get into Dungeons and Dragons. Like, back in the day. And speaking of things we'll probably do in an episode of our other podcast, I'll probably give you like a deep dive into the history of Dungeons and Dragons at some point.
Hell
but
yeah.
We don't have to do all of that now. The main thing that you need to understand is that for something that is so big and ubiquitous now, the original launch and licensing of Dungeons and Dragons was incredibly amateurish. And that's not like an insult. It's just like, considering how popular it is, you would think that it would have started out in a different way other than like, two dudes came up with these rules and were literally like handing out little booklets to people who were then who were, sometimes buying them and sometimes just Xeroxing them to their, and giving them to their friends, And so even though there was an official version of Dungeons and Dragons, most people who were introduced to it were not introduced to it because they owned an official version for several years, which was one of the things that the, eventually Gary Gygax got kind of infamous for cracking down on everybody who was trying to make money off of what he felt was like his idea. But originally it was like a very like open source kind of public domain set of rules and set of like adventures and ways that you could participate in it. And so there were a couple of different, so in addition to TSR, which was Gary Gygax's company, which was producing like the official most licensed modules in the field, there were other people who were making adventures for Dungeons and Dragons that were third party that you could buy, many of which are considered at least as good or sometimes better than the
base rules or official package.
Than the base adventures, yeah. So that's where you get Caverns of Thracia or the Dark Tower or the Tomb of the Invincible Overlord, City of the Invincible Overlord. So all of these like weird different adventures published by like Judges Guild, and another one was called Rolaids, and that's the one who made Beastmaker Mountain. And Bill Fawcett worked for Rolaids. He was like one of the original guys to get in on Dungeons and Dragons, and he wrote a couple of adventures for this Rolaids line. And here's where it gets interesting.
Quick question, interjection, sir. Is that supposed to be a pun on the antacid, the Rolaids?
I have no idea. It's entirely possible. These are I don't know.
Because there's a brand called Rolaids. Every time you say it, I'm like, I hope they knew. They can't have not known. But sorry, go ahead.
It's entirely possible. I have no idea. Because I'm so out of touch that I was like, yeah, you roll dice, you get help on, so Rolaids. But now that you say that, it's like, yeah, that was probably the joke.
Well, and I don't know if it is. You're just like saying it so casually, and like in my mind, I'm like, I know that's a thing. Is he gaslighting me right now? Is he pretending there's no such thing as roll? But okay.
No, it's a real thing. But anyway, so here's the funny part. Back in the day, the guy making those adventures and playing those games, one of the participants in the D&D was his girlfriend at the time, who is the lady who the white-haired wizard woman on the cover of Adventures is based on. And it's actually funny because I think they were breaking up at the time he was writing these, so there is this weird like through line of this lady's pretty badass, but she's also a real heartbreaker. And
yeah,
it's kind of funny to read that subtext. But the reason I know all of that is because that lady, on whom the character model is based and who is literally a character in a major NPC in one of the oldest published Dungeons and Dragons adventures, is my mother-in-law.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I was like, there's no way he's going to say his mom. That'd be crazy. But that'd be great. But your mother-in-law? And I'm like, just as good. Oh, That's wacky. That's nuts. Hey,
So
congratulations, I guess. I don't know if that's the word you say in these circumstances, but that's radical.
It's funny because I'm like, it's weird to be in a position to appreciate it. Like, because I think, when she told me that, she's like, oh yeah, I used to date this guy who wrote Dungeons and Dragons stuff. And I think he actually put me in one of his books. And I was like, what? And she was shocked by how excited I got about it. And then I actually went and looked it up. And I was like, this is true. This is not some crazy thing that you're telling me. This is actually like verifiable. What I didn't know is that they actually kept in touch. And so when she mentioned to him that I was a giant nerd for Dungeons and Dragons history, and that I was graduating from a master's program, he sent me a signed copy
Kyle!
Of that D&D adventure.
That's radical.
Isn't it?
You're more part of a magical world of adventure. You're in the loop, baby.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I was super excited to get it.
I mean, that's great. You remind me, like her not thinking it's a big deal is like, I had a friend in law school who, I can't remember how many Spider-Man movies were out at that point, but she was like, oh yeah, my family, we're just hanging out with our neighbor, J.K. Simmons. And I was like, wait, what? J.K. Simmons? Like, yeah, what's the big deal about J.K. Simmons? Like, you don't know who J.K. Simmons is? He's our neighbor. Like, what's the big deal? It's just like, I don't know. It's like, it's so commonplace that they just, they literally do not see how it's like gobsmacking for anybody else. And here you are, related to a fantasy model. Oh, that's radical. The podcast is done. This is as far as it can go, as far as like up our own ass nerdiness, is that you find out that you are now, married into a dynasty of OG nerdiness.
Yeah,
like, that's who gives a shit about anything else. That's radical.